Well, hello there, campers. Boy, did I cut out and close. I barely got in front of this machine a minute ago now, but I'm here. Although I'm here is not at the studio. I'm actually in my kitchen. Went a little long at a doctor's appointment. And, this was the closest place for me to get to go live. I would not have made it all the way back to the studio. But hey, well, I can answer questions anywhere, so why not here? Speaking of that, thanks for coming to spend a little time with us today. What we're going to do is swing around to last week and see if there's any questions that I may have missed when we were wrapping up. We'll get those answered, and then anybody that jumps in today has any questions, we'll get those answered as well. Does that sound like a plan for y'all? And if you give me the chance, I will wrap it up early because this is day 12 in a row for me for work. I'm tired. Y'all probably hear me say that way too often, but I am worn down. I've run out of John almost. All right, Mike Baker had asked me, "Hi John, I'm working on a 2006 Sportsman 450. I'm having a lot of black soot build up in the airbox. I think it's coming from the airline coming off the motor. What can I do about that?" Yeah, what's probably going on is your breather hose for the crankcase runs up to the airbox because, well, it's got a vent somewhere. I mean, any internal combustion engine that's not 100% efficient, and as far as your ring sealing, so a little bit is going to go past the cylinder or past the piston, past the rings, down past the cylinder and into the crankcase. But what's happening with yours is that's getting excessive, and so you're getting a lot of what they call blow by, and that is it's forcing its way past the piston rings, going into your crankcase, going through that vent tube or into that vent, into that tube, and then back up into your airbox. And yours is evidently pretty severe. If you want to see just how severe, why don't you open up this may make a bit of a mess just with it idling. Open up your dipstick on the side of the engine and see if it's just going you spitting oil, and air, or actually combusted air, out the engine. Now, if that's the case, if you're going to fix that, you're going to need, well, at least piston and rings, probably piston rings and a new cylinder was going to be what's going to be necessary to straighten that back up. Sorry to be bearer of bad news, but if you go through this process, not only is it going to clean up your airbox, your machine's going to run a whole lot better, because that is basically a wasted explosion. Because the more that goes around the piston, that means the less is getting applied toward the top of the piston. Hence, you're not making as much power as it should. Sean Jones, I have a 680 Honda Recon, and my brakes keep sticking hard going forward. I bet. When I stop applying gas, it gets harder and harder to go forward. Help. You didn't say if it was the front or rear brakes, and I'm fairly certain on the Recon it has drum rear brakes on the back, or just a single drum rear brake on the back, and then it's got regular disc and calipers up front. But either way, I'm betting it's probably the rear. And what happens typically on a lot of the Hondas with the drum brake setup, that pivot back there for that arm gets corroded, and that spring just is not strong enough to pull it back. So when you mash the brakes, it goes forward, engages the drum, but that spring doesn't want to bring it back. So you really need to go in and pull apart, and especially free up where that pivot point is on the outside of the drum. I've actually seen them get frozen up to the point they wouldn't move at all, and eventually just wore down the shoes, and the brakes didn't work at all. But it sounds like yours are working a little too well, but it's just not springing back. So you just need to take it apart and pay close attention to that pivot point for your clutch actuating arm. That should straighten it out. Bernie G. So my CBR 600 won't go into any gear. Engine was on when I put it in first, and it wouldn't move. Second wouldn't move. What could it be? Plates, basket? Yeah, it sounds like your clutch is completely shot out on that particular unit. Um, is but you said that's with it running. It's probably just grinding because it's not disengaging the rotation of your gears, and hence not letting you shift them. So it sounds like your plates need to be replaced ASAP. Des Moss, hi. Thanks for the great videos. You're quite welcome. These have helped me very much in my '07 GSX-R 750. The problem I'm having is that every 4 to 5 weeks, I have to top up my coolant. Oh, I've checked all of the pipes, tightened all the hoses, and I don't see any visible leaks. I've changed radiator cap as well. Could it be the thermostat or the radiator? Any help is much appreciated. Well, there's only two places for it to go. Well, three. If you have a leak, you're going to see coolant somewhere under the machine, but there's two other places where you can lose it. One, well, let's hope it's not the first one I'm going to tell you about. If you've got a head gasket that is failing, you've got passages for oil, and then you also have passages for the coolant to go up through the head, and then up through the cylinder and through the head. Now, if those passages are starting to cross flow, that you could be forcing fluid or radiator fluid into the combustion chamber, one, or two, it could be going into the oil. Now, that should be very apparent if you open up the oil and your oil level keeps going up. And it's actually not producing oil, it's actually transferring fluid or radiator fluid into the oil itself. My guess is you're probably losing it into the head somewhere, into the combustion chamber, and it's doing it at such a low rate, the bike's still running, but you're not really picking up on performance falling off yet because it's blasting it out at the back or actually evaporating it before it can even get pushed out the back, more than likely. The best way to determine which cylinder, if any of that is happening on, go ahead and pull all your plugs. One of your plugs should have a different burn to it as far as the color. It's going to be a little too clean, so to speak, and that'll probably be the indicator as to which cylinder is going on. So that being said, you're going to need to open up your engine at that point. But pull the plugs, see what you see, and then go from there. Let's see if we're starting to get some questions. Oh, just a couple. We'll ask or we'll answer a couple more that I missed last week, and then I'll switch over to the live ones. Ignacio Nani, hi, I'm having a problem with my Honda CRF 250R 2007. It starts and runs very well, but after some minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, or 250 to 500 meters approx, it shuts off. The engine dies like you cut off the fuel valve. It's exactly like when you forget to open the fuel valve and go riding. It just dies after a few minutes. I think it's carburetor related thing, but I know very little about cars. Do you have any idea what it could be? Yeah, I think I do. You need to check your vent at the top of the gas cap. More than likely, what is happening is it's stopped up. And after a while, it equalizes. But when you start running it, it creates a vacuum, and then it dies because it's basically running out of fuel. Fuel is not going to, pass down. And after it sits for a while, it loses the vacuum because it's not a perfect seal, or the vent may be partially obstructed. So check your tube, make sure it's not obstructed, and then check the valve itself, see if it's letting it breathe in and out. But Sounds like it's going to be just a venting problem associated with your fuel tank. Pedro is asking me, hey, I have a Suzuki GSR 125. And the motor is not starting. I'm twisting the key in the ignition position. When I press the ignition button, the motor is not starting. What could be wrong? Well, I'm not super familiar with the GSX-R 125, but that sounds like a typical no start condition. Boy, we've got a bunch of those videos on our YouTube channel. But more than likely, it's going to be A, your starter, B, the starting circuit, or C, the starter solenoid. One of those three, or it could be actually be the start button itself. But that's definitely the circuit that you need to look into to see what's going on with it. Tom Pence, only one left over here. Tom Pence had asked me, I have a Suzuki Ozark 250, just had a new clutch fibers put in, and shifts good first through third, having trouble with fourth. Any suggestions? Well, sounds like you fixed part of the problem, but not all of the problem. If the clutch is engaging as it should first through third, well, the clutch is doing what it's supposed to. Your fourth, that's indicating a transmission issue. So the only way you're going to take care of that, more than likely, the engagement dogs are worn and it's not wanting to lock into the synchronizer. You have to open up the lower end, and that's not a whole lot of fun. But sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You're going to have to go in and look at that transmission because the clutch is doing what it's supposed to be doing. All right. We got a couple of questions, and it looks like y'all are going to let me off early. Wow. Going easy on the old man today. Garrett Stokes is asking me, I have one for you. A Honda 96 Foreman in the computer for the CDI part quit working. Could I just put an exterior one on in its place? Are you saying can you put an aftermarket one in there, Garrett? Is that what you're asking me? But the CDI. Yeah, okay. I think I'm following your question. Yeah, can you just replace the CDI on the Foreman and not have to program it? Sure. They're not unit dependent. I know a lot of the Polarises, they want you to go in and connect it to the mother's Borg ship and put in the 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 VIN number to get it to activate. That's not the case with the Hondas. You can take one ECU controller from one machine and just pop it into another one without any additional programming. So the answer is yes, that's not a problem. Kerm is asking me, what's the best make of piston for a two-stroke motocross bike, please? Some people say Vertex. You know which way I'm going to answer this. I've always been a fan of the Wiseco forged pistons, and they, depending on your bike, they have some of their equipment, what is their racer line, which is even a step above just the regular forged pistons, which are very good, by the way. So for my vote, Wiseco. Alejandro Schneider. Hey, John, hope you're been well. My question is, I got a brand new 2021 YFC 450, bought it at the beginning of the year, and it pops and sometimes just dies out of nowhere. Why am I having this problem? What fuel are you running in it? Because I know that the 450, that's of course a high performance machine, and if you're running a less than race performance fuel in it, it's not gonna, it can only adjust down so far as the fuel quality. So make sure you're running at least 93 octane fuel. That would be where I would start. Second thing, I don't know where you're running it at. Oh, you are running 93. Are you running it at a higher elevation or an extreme temperature one way or another? You may want to do a plug read and see if you need to go with either a hotter or a colder plug for your particular application. So I think it's just going to be, since you are running 93, it's just going to be adjusting your plug. I believe in the owner's manual, it gives the alternate plugs that you can use in that particular machine, depending on where and how you are using the machine. So see if that points you in the right direction. Well, you're in Chicago, so that shouldn't be certainly not an elevated area. See what plugs in it, and then make damn sure it's the one that should be their baseline plug. I get the feeling that maybe it's been changed, and we're just not going to find out what's going, or that it has been changed. Sometimes dealers may have taken the bike out for a spin before you bought it. I mean, we always had to test them, so who knows? All right, guys, it's only 3:16, but guess what? I caught you. And I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. The mule is tired, and I want to head to the barn. I'm already in my barn, but I'm ready to close the barn door. How's that? Well, I just want to say thanks for everybody swinging by and spending just a few minutes with me. And I promise I'll recharge during the weekend. I'll try not to work on any extreme projects. That way, I'll be full of energy this coming up Friday at 3. So everybody have a great weekend, a great week, and God willing, we will see you again Friday at 3. Everybody take care.